Okay, my friends, I've been waiting for this day. I just saw this. And he's saying what we know for sure. Well, what do we know for sure? I do physics, I do light research, and I've been doing it for a very long time. And my original theory was that all energy is derived from light, which in its raw base is dipole electrons, which can be considered atomic vapor. And if you were an ancient philosopher, you may say, that's the ether, whatever you want to pronounce it. It's the particles in the background. It's the atmosphere of space. It's the quantum foam. And we're going to go through this, but he's saying what we know for sure. And all I looked at was the first 30 seconds, and I can see he's right. Every electron there is that they think is an electron. I'm not even sure what they think is an electron, but I can show you he's right. Every electron is the same. Some travel faster, some travel slower. They're the same size, they have the same capabilities, they do exactly the same thing. There's no difference between the one or the other. It's just the level of energy that they're at. That's it, and I can show that factually. Okay, so let's see what they have to say. And I was really excited when it started. Listen to this.
Is it true that every single electron in the universe is the same one?
What we know for sure is that every electron we've ever measured is exactly the same.
The same. Okay.
There is no property about one electron that is not precisely represented by other electrons.
That I agree with 100%.
So we have to ask, does that require an explanation? We might ask. Or do we just allow there to be all these electrons in the universe made in whatever way they got made and they're all exactly identical? The question was posed, maybe they look identical because they are the same single electron.
This is where it gets crazy. At first I said, oh, they're all the same. Yes, they are all the same. But now there one electron makes the whole universe? I don't think so. Okay, before we start, I have every right to speak in this realm. This is Fermilab. This is 2013, and they found these two particles, the smallest particles that exist. Same year, or right in that same time frame, we did experiments with light through a Venturi. And we found the exact same particles. Exactly the same, and they do exactly the same as he said. The white has no mass and goes into showers. And the black has all the mass and never changes. And we accelerated these particles through the Venturi, quite obvious, and they exploded at the Venturi, creating this extreme luminosity, which is what the Large Hadron Collider is doing right now. Trying to create sterile muons and electron showers from electron neutrinos. Muon neutrinos into sterile muons all by themselves, and an electron neutrino, which would normally be attached, into an electron shower, which we see here. These black and whites were attached, but the white gains enormous amount of energy because it separates from the black and creates these huge showers. So I understand this, and our light experiments were extensive, and it went for a number of years. That's the particle accelerating. This is the reverse EMF. They always talk about reverse electromagnetic, and they're talking about light going both directions. We can go back in time and forth. They're seeing things they just don't understand because they don't understand dipole electron flood theory. This is nothing more than a bounce back. All of those waves there, nothing more than a bounce back. It's not you traveling back in time. And some of the stuff they were talking about was, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, and they said, it's just, you're crazy. You have no evidence, and you're saying these crazy things. Okay, they just proved my atomic vapor theory. This is what comes off from the sun into the corona, creating millions of degrees temperature out here when it's 10,000 or so on the surface. It increases to millions out here. And this vapor is scrubbing through the vapor in the universe, which is out here, and being pushed by little tiny light particles, which are the muons. And I'll show that, and I show this very, very clearly, but I'm just going to do it now. Coming from behind here.
That would have been
See?
from...
There it goes right there.
It was from like
Watch
a mass
this.
ejection.
You see this?
Particle now, we see a bright spot coming. So very soon we're going to see an array of them. Hold on, get ready.
Yeah, I'm stopping it. This is from the video that you'll be seeing later.
So
Or-
almost instantly. See that one? See how bright that one is? That behind it is going to be a whole series of them that is pushing this particular wave.
This is the atomic vapor. That's just the white particles. Coming behind is going to be the dark particles, and you'll see them in a shower. Because that's what, there it goes. It just went by.
Did you see him?
It just went by. Now I'm going to have a big long thing with Fran about this.
Yeah, watch. Here it comes.
But here it comes now.
Right on time.
That's just the vapor that I've been talking about for 50 years. Light is atomic vapor. And here it comes,
There
it's
you go,
pushing.
Here it comes.
Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. All of those tracers, there it is right there. That's
There's the perfect
that's the
shot.
burp. That's basically the as you see these magnetic bubbles come off the sun, that's one of these. And at the edge of that bubble is the particles that are pushing the unseen vapor, which is the white particles, and these are the black particles. And I have shown that in my light experiments where we have, these are basically the black particles. These are the ones that have mass. They're being excited, so you see them bright here, but that's because they're pushing through the white particles. Now, I can show you that exact same situation where this is all just nothing but white, and this is black pushing it. And that's because it came through our accelerator. And here it is. That's the accelerator right there. And when it hit here, and the black pushed the white. The white precedes the black. And this precedes the white. This is in the audible range. It's way up in the audible range. It's almost in the light range. But it's a what they call a whistler wave. If at an atomic bomb, when it goes off, way away from the site, you can hear just like that, and then a little while later the atomic wave hits. But if you're out here, when this goes off and you're way out here, instantly you're going to hear, and that's these things going by. And then a little while later the wave will come up and pow. That's what an atomic bomb does. There it is right there. So we're showing these things and these light particles, and I'm going to go through all this stuff. And so Fran and I will be talking. Okay, my friends, if you've been following me, there's no way you could miss the fact that I have dipole electron flood theory. And it changes the atomic model from the standard model to everything is constructed of these two particles. So every electron is identical, and every muon is identical. Now, an electron can get big and powerful and strong and change colors, but a dark muon cannot. It's a solid ball. It weighs a certain weight, and I believe its weight is approximately 0.000585, something like that, atomic mass units, which means that 1,839 of these and 1,839 of these together make up one proton. So the standard model it has only a few little electrons around a big mass of protons. It's just not the way it is. It's the core in my model is basically equivalent to the outside diameter. Every gluon is a dipole electron. All right, in my world, they're dipole electrons. They call them gluons. That's fine. You take two of them back to back, they make a photon. A photon has a big ball of a field just completely surrounding it, like a basketball. It hits and it bounces back. And there's some kind of field in between the outside field and the inside core that makes it give it this. And the harder it hits and the harder the thing that it hits into, the more rapidly it will bounce back, which increases the color from the red up all the way up until you get way up past the ultraviolet. Now, it changes a lot in science. Redshift, space, this space-time, they're talking about going backwards in time and things. I don't believe any of that. Chemistry changes drastically because you got to use the enzymes. They don't take the enzymes into account for the half-lives. All kinds of things got to be looked at now with dipole electron flood theory. So let's just go forward. Now, I have evidence. It's not just speculation. This was the evidence I'm going to support. This was what they found at Fermilab back in 2013. Right about that same time, we found the same particles using light. So we found those two particles in our light experiments. Those are Fermilabs. Same thing with CERN. But when they're stuck together using photons, you can actually see the particles. They're glued together. That's correct. They're gluons. In my world, that's a dipole electron, and that's a dipole electron. Back to back, they make a photon. Photons bounce. Dipole electrons are basically heat. Just the white part is electricity. Just the black part is just dark matter, and it's a push. It's the thing that pushes the white. And I show this quite clearly, and that's light accelerating, and that's light dividing and creating its black and white showers. The black is the muons, the white come through. Yep. Okay, you can just, this is like a 5-minute read. Dipole electron flood theory, simple as it can be. These are photons, and half is a dipole electron. And the dark goes to the center, that's why we've never seen them. This is like a cross cut of a hydrogen. All right, it's 1,839 particles, and all the black gets pushed to the center. All right, you're going to have like just a real, in the hydrogen, you won't have all these layers out here. You're just going to have the real tight group, because that's all you got is one center core and a real tight ball of them. When you start to get bigger and bigger and bigger atomic masses, then you get these layers. But with the hydrogen, all you got is a couple of really, a surrounding of extremely strongly held electrons. That's why when hydrogen goes off, it is a bang that'll just blow your ears out. Because when it breaks into 1,839 balls to take up big space. All right, so this is what the dipole electron flood theory proton is. And it's just made of these two particles. That's all that exists, these two particles. That has all the weight, all the energy, all the burn. It has a field. And it's just, I can't explain it, but there's just no weight. You fill up a car full of that, and you can drive it all day long. It never uses or loses weight, either way. You fill it up, it never gains or loses weight. Gasoline weighs a ton. Literally, you take 10 gallons of gas, weighs 60 pounds, 60. That's a lot of weight. And to drive, say, 500 miles, 50 miles a gallon. This here, you fill it up, you drive 500 miles, no weight whatsoever, zero. This has all the weight. So this is the standard model is different than ours. And I have proven ours. The standard model has proven it doesn't work. There's no gravity, there's no dark matter, they can't account for this, they can't account for that. They know empty space isn't empty. This goes back to 2013, Fermilab. This is not something they don't know. So the things that they say they don't know, and what do we know? Like he's saying, what we know for sure. There's not much we know for sure. That looks like a mugshot. I'm sorry, my friend, I'm just teasing. Okay, I didn't get really too far into that. I think I got up to about here, but by about here I realized it was just, you'll see. But it started off exactly what I wanted to hear. Listen, because it is only this a single type of electron, which is a dipole electron, makes everything there is. And 1,839 of them or so become stable to make the smallest stable mass, which is hydrogen. And then it appears that you keep adding 839 or so particles, 840 for a neutron, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger in those quantities. For some reason, there's some kind of resonation going on, or resonance frequencies. Boop, they lock in at a certain one. You can throw a couple of extra ones off that way, or a couple this way, take on a couple. Doesn't matter. It's still basically stable at that point. The rest of them have stability for a certain amount of time, but they want to reach those. There's an exact certain number where the stability is good, perfect. That's where they want to go to. Virtually every element wants to become stable. But that requires an exact number of these particles. If you're missing some of these, it wants to get some, and it's not stable until they come back. All right, you have too many of these, it's not stable until somebody else will take a few. That's what stability is, and it's because of these. And you can have a zillion different half-lives. It's not just a couple of different half-lives per atomic mass. There's in between hydrogen and helium. You go from, hydrogen is not one, hydrogen is 1,839 dipoles. All right, when you go from H, which is 1, you go up at helium, which is 4. All right, it's two neutrons and 2 protons, basically, is what they say. They say this is just 1 proton. So you got 4 times the mass. So instead of, let's go with 2,000. 2,000, you got 8,000. And in between are all the half-lives. And they can transition, but they use enzymes. That's a whole nother, the biological nature of dipole electrons is fascinating, because that's what leads to health. So that's a whole nother realm of dipole electron flood theory. There's so much to dipole electron flood theory. It takes a lot of thinking to go through all the different things that it changes. Okay, I just came across this, and this is a group of science communicators discussing electrons, and they say, could all electrons be the same, exactly the same? And I said, well, yes, they are. Dipole electron flood theory shows they're all the same, they just have different energies, and those dipole electrons make up protons. Blah, 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 blah. That's my dipole electron flood theory. There is nothing but dipole electrons, and they are all exactly identical. So when they started talking about this, I got real excited, and then I got real unexcited. Listen.
Is it true that every single electron in the universe is the same one?
What we know for sure is that every electron we've ever measured is exactly the same.
The same. Okay.
There is no property about one electron that is not precisely represented by other electrons.
Okay, so I said, wow, this is fabulous. They know that there's a dipole electron. It's not just little bits and fragments of a proton. The electron is exactly the same. And when you put them in a pile, in a mass, each one of these little dipole electrons, these little magnets, surround the core that they attract to, and then you have the dipole proton. But it's made of dipoles. It's not made of quarks or this or that, or the particle zoo that they call it. So at this point I'm getting excited. And then I found this. All right, let's just pick it up from here. It says, then you can ask the question.
Then you can ask the question, if one electron goes forward in time and then reverses going backwards in time,
it's not going
and
backwards.
it just keeps doing that, then wherever
well, what he's talking about is AC current. AC, 60 cycles back and forth, bounce, 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 bounce. That's electricity. That doesn't mean you're going back in time. that just means your energy is pushing back. It's just like I push here and that thing falls back against me. It doesn't mean that thing is coming back in time. It's just the energy is reversing its energy. That's all. You push me, I shove you back. That doesn't mean you just went back in time. So this is where it started to get crazy, and then it got crazier. All right, and again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I have evidence I'd like these guys to see. I can never get through to any one of them. I've tried over and over and over for 15 years. Now listen to this.
Going backwards in time that we happen to catch in the moment we measure them, thinking they are ordinary electrons going forward in time?
Probably not. At this point, the reason we say probably not is, well, aside from the fact that we haven't been able to prove that experimentally.
First of all, you can actually see them doing what they do, and we have proven experimentally that they create a shock wave backwards, yes.
Oh, wait, don't disprove it yet.
Okay.
Just give me the full hammer of the explanation that accounted for every electron being identical, and then we can debunk it afterwards.
Right. Well,
All right, well, hold on one second.
it has to.
He's Neil deGrasse, I think it's Neil Tyson. He's saying, tell me the whole story here. Don't just say we can't do this or you can't do that. Now, Tyson is saying every electron is the same. I agree with that 100%. But now this guy says there's only one electron makes up the whole universe, and it just depends on your grids and this and that. And this is where, you know, anyway, I'll let it go. You see what you think of this explanation.
To do with relativity, right? Because you're moving forward and backward in time, being able to think of world lines in special relativity of particles. Now, if you imagine that things would just keep going past, present, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but you do it almost infinite number of times, then every time you measure an electron, it's the same one, but just at a different moment in time. It's a different part of its world line.
Oh.
So it's always coming backward and forward in time, right?
Okay, but so there's the electron that's in my experiment, but now I look out the window and I see a tree. That tree has electrons in it. So the electron that's in the tree and the electron that's in my experiment, it's the same electron just on a different world line that's crossing my present in a different location.
Yes.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Beautifully said.
I'm sorry. I don't mean this to be. Well, listen to this guy here. At this point, I burst into hysterical laughter, and anyway, listen.
That sounds crazy.
Yes.
I'm just going to be honest. That sounds insane. Okay.
Well, a lot of things that sound insane when they're originally proposed turn out to be indeed insane.
Not that.
No, they do. That one there is insane, and it's never going to not be insane. Things that are insane, yes, I got a lot of things that are insane, but I got evidence to prove that they're not insane.
Insane.
A lot of the stuff, though, you have grains of truth from which reality can then be further explained by it.
You had me up until the electrons going back and forth in time on a different world line in different places at the same time.
No, because Chuck, the whole point of a world line is time
it's
is
yours.
one coordinate.
It's yours.
Wait, hold on.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Time is just one coordinate.
Right.
So two world lines can exist in the same time, but not in the same place.
This is just, anyway, hold on. All right, they just announced that space is saturated with particles. As they knew this, it's called a quantum foam from Fermilab. They have a big thing about it. Space is not empty, it's full of particles, and light slows down. So these Hubble and Webb, they just don't make any sense. Now let's listen to what they have to say. I got to be honest with you. He's spouting some things that are kind of really out of the ballpark because there's no information to support it whatsoever that I can see. Let's see what he has to say from here. I haven't watched this. I just went to the very end and found out, yes, they agree that we are all made from God's particles. That's how I took it. Now listen.
Okay.
It is the thing that has enabled more discovery in astrophysics than anything else in my lifetime. If we need to talk about just the ultimate discovery, the thing that sort of is the most fundamental thing in astrophysics, period, I think it is the confirmation of the existence of the Big Bang.
That is absolutely not confirmed whatsoever. 100% almost dismissed. They think the reason light is slowing down as it gets to us, shifting to the red, is because the universe is expanding. Well, it's expanding this way and this way and that way and this way and that way because we're in the center. Anywhere we look, it's expanding. That's just, are we the center of the universe? Apparently. It's just not true. And they know now that light slows down, and I have shown the existence of all the particles that are in space that are slowing the light down. So he's saying the big, we know this. These are the kind of things they make these statements. That's the most important thing. Well, it's led you astray, my friend, for your whole entire life. And the same thing about Einstein saying light can't accelerate, light can't slow down, space is a total vacuum, and they're still working off of that theory with the Webb Space Telescope, which does not measure distances at all accurately. It can't. It's looking through debris that it can't sort out. There's dense space here, there's lighter space here. One is going to take the light longer to get to you, and this one's going to come faster because it's coming through less debris. That's all it is. All right, now listen to this. Here goes.
A thing where the universe was once small and is now large. That there was a moment where you could extrapolate to a time equals 0 from which everything we see and know has evolved to this point.
Now, how did that just happen? It all just came from nothing. That's a little hard to visualize. And now it's all going out this way. And we're in the center of it. Maybe. Is there a God? Every culture on Earth, 100%, had the same story about gods, dragons, giants, a great flood, and they all had deities that ruled their lives, basically, and everyone had the same sort of text. Now, where does that leave that? For him, this is everything just exploded from nothing, which is a little bit of a stretch. I don't know how God came about. I just don't know. I don't even know if God would know how he came about, if it's a he. I don't even know. But I can't see life as I understand life, and I understand it pretty damn well. There's no way in the world a bunch of slime from a big bang of nothing all congealed back together, turned into slime, and then turned into something like this guy here, coming up with these kind of explanations. So anyway, here we go.
How, the specifics of the Big Bang, we still don't know. There's still a lot of things that are like in there. It could be a cyclical Big Bang, could be an inflationary Big Bang, but there was a Big Bang.
And the reason there was is because we can see it, right?
Yep. The cosmic microwave background detection.
That's ridiculous. The background, microwave background is light that has just slowed down because it's hit so many particles in the way. And that's the microwave background. It's there, but it's just going so slow that it really isn't light anymore. It's just sort of floating around particles.
The expansion rate of the universe accelerating, the nucleosynthetic relationships of how much hydrogen, helium, and other elements there are in the universe, all of that conclusively, with beyond a reasonable doubt.
And the reason why I said that is because there's a lot of people who say that that is the religious leap of faith that you guys as astrophysicists make, which is juxtaposed against the leap of faith that people make when they say, well, there was a creation or a creator.
Right.
The difference is the Big Bang is supported by data.
That's right.
No, that is not true at all. See, now they're laughing. Oh, we got that. Well, explain Typhon. Tyson should explain Typhon. They can't do that. They can't explain any of the things I'm showing. The giants, the DNA tested giants that I have, not a single one of them will stand up to that. He won't stand up to it. None of them will. I want them to stand up to my evidence. And they make light of everything. Oh, yeah, well, we got the data. You hear this? You guys are astrophysicists, and you make up these claims. I'm with him. Now, I am going to be doing some videos with my friend Pierre, who he and I went to a bunch of different courses years ago, about 15 years ago. Coursera would allow you to go any university in the world basically for free as a student, and you didn't have to pay. And he went to 15 different courses. I took a whole ton of them too. And one of them was particle physics, and I will show you all of this stuff. And my research was physical and touchy and all that. Not this. They're talking about data. I'm talking about a physical thing. Now let them discuss this. What is this? This is Quetzalcoatl. This is his beards. There's his head, and this is his big headdress. He's in the ancient glyphs. His body runs all the way up the East Coast. That's his shoulder right there. This is his throat, runs all the way up through his body. That's his throat. The head is, because it's a different type of material, so it grows different crops and things there. It's in different soils than out here. This is mostly bloody runoff. It grows nice and green. This must be like sort of kind of different material. However, his body is covered with feathers. And they come all the way up the East Coast, up to the Green Mountains. And they're green because feathers make things grow green. They sell feather meal. You can buy it all ground up. You throw it on your plants, and they grow very green. So these are the green feathered mountains. That's not tectonic plates pushing and shoving. And that's what a geologist will tell you. Now, I've been working with some of the top people that have retired, and they have no skin in the game anymore, and they can talk, and they are all talking. And I have a geologist that understands this. We've had some discussions. Jim and I have gone over all this stuff. He understands because he was in charge of making sure bridges didn't fall down and water was being remediated crazy. He worked for the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers. Now, this is Typhon in the desert. This is written about in the ancient texts. Let their data support this. That's a giant fish being attacked by a giant dragon which covers the whole north of Africa, written in the ancient text exactly as he is portrayed here, spitting a great jet of fire onto one of the gods that changed themselves into animals to try to hide from Typhon. And he spit out this great jet of fire, and it went right onto the fish's back. And here's his throat. And this is called the Drach River, the Dragon River. And it comes right down his throat, and these are all dragon scales. And this is not the only place there's dragons. They are everywhere. There was dragons, and they must have ruled the earth at one time. And these are the dragon scales. These are like plates. You see these plates? They're built that way so that he could twist his neck up and down. Otherwise, he'd be straight, and he'd have to go like this. Now he can go any way he wants. Those are the little hinges. But he still was very well protected. However, he did manage to get slashed on his throat right here and killed. That's a gash right across. And, my friends, this is right across his whole throat. And that black and red is the two types of iron that are in blood. It's FeO2 and 3. And they create a barrier between themselves because they are polar opposites. The red blood grows green things even in the desert. Those are all green things growing in the desert. Black is 100% different. Nothing grows in the black. It's hard and crisp. And they do not like each other. They create a membrane between each other. This is the black. You see that? Zero growing there. Now, what about at the edge? I said it creates a membrane. Well, yes, it does. You see how close this red's coming? You see the membrane keeping it apart? That's from a creature's body. That's blood. Now, these guys are talking about light and the nature, and we got all the data, and everything supports us, and the religious people are just crazy. Well, I'm not talking about religion. You take it any way you want. This was history. History. That's what I'm looking at. And Apollodorus wrote about Typhon attacking that giant fish. I'll just read it to you right now. All right, this is Apollodorus. He wrote what the daughters of Zeus told him to write. The gods had killed all the giants, which were the earth's children. The earth became enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon, that gigantic dragon. And I'm going to read to you exactly what I say about him. He was a hybrid between man and beast. Size and strength, he surpassed all the offspring of earth. His thighs were of human shape. That's the only thing that was human, was his thighs. And he was of so prodigious bulk, he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. One of his hands reached out to the west, the other to the east, and from them projected 100 dragons' heads, which apparently Zeus burnt off. That's what I saw. From the thighs downward, he had huge coils of vipers. They reached to the very head, emitted a loud hissing. His body was all winged, unkempt, hair streaming from his wind, from his cheeks, his head, and his cheeks. Fire flashed from his eyes, and it does. So great was Typhon, he hurled kindled rocks. He made for the very heavens with hissing and shouts, spouting a great jet of fire from his mouth. When the gods saw him rushing at heaven, they made for Egypt in flight. Being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals. Now, Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance, cut him down with an adamantine sickle, and then it goes on and on from there. Now, that is the story of Typhon, who is this dragon. And he runs all the way across North Africa, all the way from here, all the way across. This is his body. These are the thighs of a human. All right, coming off of his body. This is his throat, comes all the way down to his guts, which are in here. This is all dragon throat. All dragon throat, all the way down. And it's the longest river in this whole area. And his river is just like the river going through Quetzalcoatl. And he spit down here at the fish, who changed, they say it was Ares. Now, this was what was written. I didn't write that text. I did not write that text. And this dragon is on a map from 1375. And way back here, all the way back past his huge body. Well, remember they talked about his red flared eye? Well, that's pretty red and flary to me. You see it? Red and flared. Now, it's almost like they painted it to be here, for somebody to find. I mean, it's just amazing. And this is all the decaying effluent from a decomposing body. This is not like blood. This is blood. Red and black is blood. This is more the lymph fluids, and you see it down here. It's sort of, just nasty fluid when something dies and it decomposes and nasty little fluids come out of it. This is different. When you see red and you see black, that's a gash with an artery and a vein, both. And that's what we have here. So let them explain this with their little snide remarks about religion and all those people. We got the data. We know what we're talking about. Well, maybe. I'd like to discuss it. All right, so we're back to speaking about what we know about, what we absolutely are certain of. Well, he's talking could be an inflationary Big Bang, but there was a Big Bang. Well, I can't say there wasn't, and you can't say there was, because you weren't there. I wasn't there. I think there's got to be some kind of a creation. Something's doing something here that you guys don't have any clue about. DNA is so complicated that it just didn't pop up by slime. Okay, so here it goes.
But there was a Big Bang.
And the reason there was is because we can see it, right?
Yep. The cosmic microwave background detection the expansion rate of the universe accelerating, the nucleosynthetic relationships of how much hydrogen, helium, and other elements there are in the universe, all of that conclusively, beyond a reasonable doubt.
I want to just say, I'm sorry, my friend, that is absolute total nonsense. That is word salad nonsense. There is no doubt that it's wrong. And I show it's wrong. You guys are just talking.
And the reason why I said that is because there's a lot of people who say that that is the religious leap of faith that you guys as astrophysicists make, which is juxtaposed against the leap of faith that people make when they say, well, there was a creation or a creator.
Right.
The difference is the Big Bang is supported by data.
That's right.
Yeah, see, they're all going to chuckle now. Well, we got the data. Well, yeah, the universe is expanding because Einstein said light can't accelerate or slow down and that space is a vacuum. Both of those things are totally wrong. Everything they're basing their opinions on, we know absolutely for certain. No, they don't. They're wrong. There is no data to support this whatsoever.
We did not take a leap of faith. Right. We did not take a leap of faith that was not evidence based.
Yes, you did. I have the evidence. Let's talk about my fundamental line of evidence.
It's the fundamental line.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can see it. You can see it. You can actually see it.
In the middle of the 20th century, a pope actually said, you know what? The Big Bang has been shown scientifically to be true. Therefore, God exists. Now,
I agree with that. It didn't come from nothing. How could you say scientifically, as a scientific person, everything just came from nothing? That makes sense to you? It doesn't to me. And it doesn't make sense to me either that God could have created everything from nothing either. But it makes more sense to me based on the fact of what happened after the creation and what our situation is and the life and all of that stuff afterwards shows me that your interpretation of the Big Bang is a huge leap of faith that just nothing existed and then all of a sudden everything did and went out as a Big Bang. We absolutely know this. This is what drives me crazy, and they will not speak to my evidence. That's what really drives me crazy. So speak to my evidence, speak to Quetzalcoatl, speak about Typhon, speak about Apollodorus and all the ancient texts that were written. Talk about Velikovsky, who did the research. You guys are just spouting.
Now that is a leap of faith.
I would mention two things. Number one, for the 20th century, I would say the discovery that the heavy elements in the universe owe their origin to heavy stars, massive.
That's wrong. That's not right either. The heavy elements are being created as we're sitting right here now, and they're being created by an up bump, enzymes bumping up atoms into their next atomic state. You know, decay doesn't go only one way. Decay can go up. If you have an enzyme that's manipulating that half-life of these particles, it can bump it up into right up the line. And they can do that billions of times per second. There's enzymatic changes that happen to these atoms from enzymes that would take billions of years to happen if it weren't for the enzyme. That is a fact, my friend. That is not disputable. These kind of chemical interactions are fully understood, and they're only happen by enzymes, and enzymes only are created by bacteria. So it's not the heavy stars that made these particles. That's the only explanation they can come up with. It's not some kind of absolute certainty. Let's listen to what he said again. All right, so one more of these, something we absolutely certain of. Here goes.
Century, I would say the discovery that the heavy elements in the universe owe their origin to heavy stars, massive stars that have manufactured them in the crucibles of their nuclei.
Yeah, Burbage, Fowler, and Hoyle.
This is Burbage.
Marvelous work.
Scatter that enrichment across the galaxy, allowing complex molecules And in the limit of complex molecules, you get what we call life.
Damn.
That discovery borders on the spiritual, enabling us to recognize that we are not simply alive in this universe. The universe is alive within us. We can.
All right, let's take a look at Asteroid Bennu. He's right. The universe is 100% alive. Asteroid Bennu, they went and brought a sample back to Earth. It's heart muscle. All right, here it is right there. They're beginning to use our Venturi, which is the Venturi here, to accelerate electrons. All right, they're accelerating electrons and crashing them into a hydrogen rod, forcing protons, which they call the positives, to be ejected from the hydrogen rod at higher speeds than normal because they have accelerated through the nozzle head, they're calling it, or I call it a Venturi, and it has to be tuned just correct to rip these particles off. See, hot electron cloud? These are our hot electron clouds, which come around here. Hot electron clouds. Hot electrons, the white particles. These are the black particles, and they're driving them off, accelerating them with a negative hot electron cloud field. So they're using that hot electrons to accelerate the protons. They're doing just what we're doing, but why go to that? So now what are you going to do with those accelerated protons? What good are they? All right, this is going to take a little discussion about why would you go back. You want to get to the smallest particles, which are the electrons that have the energy. Instead, they want to go back to the positive particles. All they have is push. These are the particles that have the energy. They have no mass, but they have all the energy. They do all the burning. All right, so we're going to go and do a whole new thing about this dipole electron flood theory in relation to all the new things that they're talking about. They say we can see particles going back and forth at the same time, so we can go back in time. No, they can't. What it is it bounces and you get a wave going backwards. It's called reverse electromagnetic, reverse EMF, electromagnetic fields. So it goes this way and that way because it bounces. That's all it is. And these are meaningless. Why would they do this? All right, then we're going to do the next one. It's going to be fabulous. All of these things are floating around in space, right around us. Explain to me what they are. I think I can explain a lot of this, but there's a lot I can't explain. And I would like to, I have turned up a whole bunch of things nobody's talked about for many, many years. This was from 1996. And the other one was John Glenn and the Fireflies. That was 1962. A lot of this stuff just gets pushed to the side, and they won't talk about it anymore. These things were seen in the tether experiment, and they said, they're just floating around with us. No, they weren't. They were on the other side of the tether, and the tether was 90 miles from the spacecraft was taking the photos, and these big round things were on the other side of the tether. They're all over the place, and some of them just hang around and they just keep floating and doing this. Some of them blink on and off. I'm pretty sure I understand what's going on with these blinkers. But then there's going to be other ones that they just float around with everything else, and they never go away. What are they? I ask. Like this right here. You see that? What's that? Why is that there? Well, we're going to go through a whole thing, but anytime you see energy, anytime you see something bright, it's energetic, and it's energetic for why, I don't know. Look at this one. Blink at a blink at a blink. Why is that strobing like that? I understand some of this stuff that's going on up in here. That's excessive energy that's just coalescing and snapping, basically. This is a different story. These are different stories. But we got to look at everything, try to figure everything out. This is the layer of the atmosphere. That's it. Okay, my friends, never a dull day at Mudfossil University. This is light, pulsed red laser from this red laser right here. And it's being photographed with this cell phone, which is a Samsung Galaxy S3 from 2012. This goes back many years. And we could see these particles coming through the air. And then at certain points, and this took literally thousands of hours of pictures. It starts to accelerate because there's a venturi down here. A venturi, they're calling it now a nozzle. Well, basically it is. A venturi focuses all these fields and these particles to crush each other right there. So what are they doing now? This accelerates light. It accelerates it. There's no question about it. So what are they doing? I just saw where they came up with the same device to accelerate protons. Now, the key here is what they really want is the electrons. Why would they not try to look for the electrons? Instead, they throw a hydrogen rod in the mix of our highly excited electrons. All right, this is the skirt, some electron skirt, highly electric particles. And as they come through, they push protons off of this, they're calling it a deuterium hydrogen rod, apparently. I don't know what they're doing there, but why would they do that? What you want is the electrons. You don't want these big particles. Those are just big chunks. They're huge compared to the particles we use. They're these. Why would they want to accelerate? Well, they do want to accelerate them because they usually hit them head on. This thing's about this long. And that's what I was telling you. My stuff, you could do it within like this much. You just should be able to get extremely high energy particles, extremely high energy of electrons, which are not gigantic particles. And you can focus them too. And this is what they're really excited about this. All right, these are the Nag Hammadi texts. These are just words of Jesus. He said we're made out of light. And everything in these Nag Hammadi texts talks about trying to get to the light, being light, and all that business. Now, Jesus said, if they say to you, where have you come from? Say to them, we have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image. Let us make them in our image. We came from there now. So it says that's where we came from. Well, what are we made out of? If they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children. We are the chosen of the living Father. We are the children of the light. We are made from the light. If they ask you what is the evidence of your Father in you, say to them it is motion and rest. And that's exactly it. There's potential energy and there's kinetic energy, which is mass and then something doing work. And that's exactly what Jesus said. Now, let's go back to these experts to see what they have to say, because they come to that same conclusion, basically.